Hello everyone. In the previous video lecture, we saw the theory of Guna as it was conceptualized by Anandavarthana. We saw that Anandavarthana's contribution to the theory of Guna was really remarkable in the sense that he reduced the number of gunas to three, namely Madhurya, Ojas and Prasada. He also connected the idea of gunas to rasa and held that gunas are dependent on rasas, although they reside in Shabda and Artha. He held the view that while alankaras are like ornaments, like bracelets, gunas are like qualities such as courage. According to Ananda, Madhurya is associated with emotions like Shrangara, Hasya and Karuna, while Ojas is related to the rasas like Raudra, Veera and Adbhuta. According to Ananda, Madhurya and Ojas were distinctly different from each other, while the quality called Prasada could occur with any rasas. We also saw that while describing the theory of Madhurya, Anandavarthana disagreed with Pamaha's opinion that Shravyatva, or the quality of being pleasing or soothing to the ear, is unique to the quality called Madhurya. We also saw Anandavarthana's opinion that Samkhadana or style and Guna or poetic merits are two different entities. Now, in this lecture, we are going to see another important theoretician in the history of Guna. He is none other than Bhoja. Bhoja is of the view that even if a piece of writing is endowed with alankara, it cannot qualify to become a poem if it is devoid of gunas. This means that Bhoja is giving more importance to Guna, and he is a follower of Vamana on the question of the relative importance of gunas. Bhoja's observation is worth mentioning in this context. Bhoja says that poetry which is lacking in gunas is not worth listening to, even if it is well adorned with alankaras. Of the two, that is, inherence of good qualities and inclusion of ornaments, the first is more important. Bhoja, in his Sringara Prakasha, came up with 24 gunas on the basis of Shabda or sound, Artha or sense. Bhoja calls Shabda gunas Bahya gunas. For him, Artha gunas are Abhyantara gunas. He also mentions a category called Vaisheshi Gunas. Vaisheshi Gunas are doshas that turn out to be gunas in some situations. First, let's take a look at the Shabda gunas or the Bahya gunas that Bhoja mentions. The first Shabda guna that Bhoja mentions is Shlesha. Shlesha is that excellent quality by which words seamlessly merge with each other. In such a manner, they appear as one word. Here, Bhoja is following the definition of Vamana about Shlesha. The next guna that Bhoja mentions is Prasada. Here also, Vamana's definition of Prasada is closely followed by Bhoja. According to Bhoja, Prasada is that kind of quality where the flexibility of structure coexists with the compactness of word structure. In his definition of Prasada, Bhoja closely follows the definition of Dandin and says that Prasada is the ability of a word to denote the meaning without much effort on the part of the listener or reader. For Bhoja, the quality called Samata is the uniformity of words on the basis of the relation between letters forming the words. The next quality that Bhoja talks about is Madhurya. Madhurya is the combination of words without long compounds. After Madhurya, Bhoja defines Saukumarya. Saukumarya is the absence of harshness due to the use of soft syllables. The next guna that Bhoja mentions is Arthavyakti. Arthavyakti is the completeness of this sense. Here, Bhoja is reproducing Dandin's definition of Arthavyakti. The next poetic merit that Bhoja wants to talk about is Kanti. Kanti is the richness of words giving rise to a dignity in the composition. According to Raghavan, here Bhoja follows the definition of Vamana since Dandin does not have an aspect of Kanti which can be related to Shabda. The quality called Audarya, which he defines next, is the liveliness in the composition. In other words, it is that quality by virtue of which people feel that the words are dancing. It is called the Vikatatva of words. In other words, the arrangement of words in such a manner that the number of letters in them gradually increases. Here, Bhoja follows the definition of Vamana given in his Kavyalankara Sutravritti. The next guna is Udata. Udata is the mention of worthy epithets. After Udata, Bhoja mentions Ojas. Ojas is the superabundance of compound words. Then Bhoja introduces a new quality called Aurjitya. Aurjitya is the compactness of the structure. It is a new guna that Bhoja introduces. Raghavan points out that Bhoja creates this new guna out of the Shabda guna, which Vamana calls Ojas. The next guna is Prayas. It is an altogether new guna for Bhoja. This does not mean that it is a new concept altogether. Bhamaha, Dandin and Utpada had defined Prayas as an Alankara. In their parlance, Prayas was an affectionate utterance. Here, Bhoja incorporates the same idea without any change. The next guna that Bhoja defines is Saushabdata. What is Saushabdata? Saushabdata is the proper use of nouns and verbs in conformity with grammatical correctness. The next guna, Samadhi, is the transference of the qualities of one object to another object. For example, if we apply the qualities of a sentient entity to a non-sentient thing, then it is called Samadhi according to Bhoja. In other words, this is actually the metaphorical usage. Then Bhoja introduces a new guna called Saukshmya. Saukshmya is the new guna. It is the use of words in which is involved a subtlety of sense. It is an expression that means one thing on the surface and means something else suggestively or metaphorically. According to Raghavan, Ratneshwara illustrates this guna by comparing it to the stone in which the form of horse, elephant, etc., which the sculptor is going to draw out, is in a latent form. The next guna, Gambhirya, is again a new guna that Bhoja introduces. It is the quality of containing all concepts of Dhvani. Dhvani is conceived of as a guna here. Vistara is the analytic expression of an idea. It is the proper expansion of an idea. Samkshepa is the next guna that Bhoja mentions. It is the exact opposite of Vistara. According to Bhoja, it's a brief or condensed expression. Sammitatva is the use of exactly as many words as are required to understand the sense. Raghavan points out that it is neither Vistara nor Samkshepa. It is the use of the right number of words to express a particular idea. The guna called Bhavigatva is an expression of deep emotion. It is related to Bhava and Rasa. The next guna called Gati is an orderly sequence of ascent and descent. Another guna that Bhoja mentions is Riti. It is the maintenance of the original manner. Bhoja says that this can become a guna only under some circumstances. If it is carried out at length, then this can turn out to be monotonous. The last guna that Bhoja mentions is Praudhi. Prouti is the expression involving a depth or maturity of sense. Now, let's take a look at the Artha Gunas mentioned by Bhoja. The first Artha Guna that Bhoja mentions is Shlesha. Shlesha is the quality of being well connected in the sequence of events. Shlesha is the unity or the perfect commingling of many ideas in a poetic composition according to the order of events. Prasada is the clarity of sense. Samatha is the non-relinquishment of the sense or the sequence of ideas. Samatha is the non-relinquishment of the sequence of ideas. It is the description of the natural order of things as found in the world. When this order is not properly maintained, it results in the dosha called kramabhanga. Madhurya is the placidity even under the influence of anger, etc. Raghavan's observation is of particular importance in this context. Raghavan observes, this has nothing to do with Vamana's Artha Madhurya, which is Ukti Vaichitriya. This Madhurya of Bhoja is more a guna of the Nayaka or Nayika to be treated under Samanya Bhinaya. Saukumarya is the absence of harshness, that is, tenderness of ideas. Arthavyakti is a faithful description of the nature of things. Ojas is the emphatic assertion of a certain statement. Kanti is the conspicuous presence of rasas. Audarya is the grandeur or glory. Udata is the nobleness of intention. Aurjitya is the expression of anger gone to excess. It is Urjasvin that Dandin refers to. It is a haughty expression. We are not clear what Bhoja means by the quality prayas. All that we know certainly about this quality is that it is a virtue that arises out of love. Saushabdata is the use of auspicious expressions for the inauspicious idea. Samadhi is the quality arising out of one's ability to exhibit one's feeling artfully by adopting some pretext. Saukshmya is the comprehension of one's inner feelings from external gestures. According to Raghavan, this seems to be a case of dhvani, of vastu or rasa, etc. Gambhirya is the expression containing technical ideas pertaining to Shastra. Vistara is a gradual manifestation or revelation of the intended sense. Samksheba is the brevity in which an extensive topic is expressed in a single sentence. Sammitatva is the suitability or exact matching of word and sense. Raghavan is of the view that this looks like a Shabda Guna, although Bhoja presents it as an Artha Guna. Bhaviga is Vyajokti or dissimulating statement. The illustrative verse given by Bhoja explains this particular guna further. In the verse given by Bhoja, a loose woman who goes to meet her lover is presented. Although she is going to meet her lover, she makes her husband believe that she is going for some legitimate purpose. Gati is the comprehension of one meaning from another. We can say that this is clearly a case of dhvani. Ridi is the sequence of actions from the very beginning. Ukti is the bringing out of the sense intended with some amount of delicacy so as to avoid any vulgarity. This is another kind of Bhangi Bhanidi or another kind of special composition. Prouti is bringing out of the intended meanings in short clauses consisting of finely chosen words and expressions. Bhoja also lists 24 Vaisheshi Gunas. Vaisheshi Gunas are in fact poetic faults or doshas which are capable of turning out to be gunas on certain special occasions. Bhoja reserves 24 Vaisheshi Gunas for pada or word, vakya or sentence, and sentence meaning. We are not going to deal with this category in detail now. since it is only an introductory course to the theory of poetics, and also it's going to take a lot of time. These doshas turn out to be gunas, especially when they are used for imitative purpose. For example, grammatical incorrectness is a fault, but it turns out to be a guna when the poet tries to imitate the speech of a child. If the poet follows grammatical correctness in this context, it will definitely be considered a fault. So, these are the major qualities or poetic gunas that Bhoja is referring to in his Sringara Prakasha. Having seen all the major points that we need to discuss in connection with the theory of guna vis-a-vis Bhoja, we are going to wrap up this class. We have seen that in Bhoja's theoretical corpus, the number of gunas have increased from 10 to 24. Bhoja also follows the general pattern of Shabda gunas and Artha gunas. A new category of gunas that we find in Bhoja is the guna called Vaisheshi Guna. As we have seen, Vaisheshi Gunas are in fact doshas, but these doshas can sometimes turn out to be gunas in the representation of certain characters. Since we have seen this idea in connection with our discussion of Aujitya, I do not wish to get into the details. In the next video lecture, we will see the theory of guna conceptualized by the author of Agni Purana. I hope you have understood all the major lessons we discussed today. Thank you.